Ibby, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Omar.
My pleasure. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you?
I do. The quote was said by I think is Willie Guy. He was Mozzie on White Collar, like a TV show on USA from like 15 years ago. And the quote, he's got a lot of good ones, but the one that I like the most is, if you want a happy ending, it depends on where you stop the story.
Very true.
And that is, I think, how I live my life, where it's always just looking, I don't know, whenever I feel, and I mean, I don't know, if you feel this way, startups are very much like a sine wave of emotions. You just kind of hope that the next trough is higher than the previous trough. And that's the kind of thing that I live my life by, I think.
That's a good attitude. So tell us about Cotera. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
We are an AI agent builder. The claim that we make, at least, is that we are the easiest way to, bar none, set up AI agents on top of your native enterprise infrastructure. What that basically means is we are a product where you come in, you write a prompt on what you want the AI agents to do. You give it access to tools just like you would a human. So you write, the prompt just like you would write an email to maybe a new hire. You give it access to login, so the systems that it needs to use to be able to do its job, and then you set it live on top of something. So a great example is, I don't know, maybe you want for every call that finishes to go into every call transcript and generate a case study deck in Google Slides, right? You basically explain to the AI, hey, I want you to go into this table of call recordings every 5 minutes that's in Snowflake. I want you to make a doc. I want you to open up Google Slides. I would like you to go to this template. I'd like you to make a case study. Here are examples of previous case studies. Please write me one and send me a Slack message. And all you have to do is give it access to where the data sits, write out a natural language instruction guide, give it access to tools, and tell it how often you want it to check. And that is our claim to fame.
Great. And who's your ICP?
We primarily sell to Series B, Series C, and Series D businesses that are fast growing, and will sell to any team as long as they have sort of like a desire to learn how to use AI products. We generally go after sort of these like growth hacker types.
Okay. And give us a sense of the size of the business. Where are you in terms of revenue, customers, size of team?
Yeah, we have we've recently switched actually to doing a PLG model that we're testing out, but we have around 15 enterprise customers. Team size is just around 10, and we're out just around the 7-figure ARR mark, low end of $1 million.
So tell us about the business. You founded the business with your co-founder, is it Tom?
Yep, Tom Firth.
And you guys got into YC with your original idea. And the original product was very different to what you're doing today, right?
Yeah. So the original product, it was actually, Tom was the one to get into YC. I joined him. We met around that time. So the original product was, customer analytics product. It was something where, you sign up, you connect it to your data warehouse, and it would help you effectively compare different cohorts together and help you basically create personas that you could use in your marketing tools to help prevent churn. That was the original idea. It very quickly morphed from that, but yeah, that was the original idea.
Right. So basically, you started that business 2022, worked on this customer analytics platform for a couple of years, and you got some customers, but not really great traction. And then at some point you pivoted, and in a relatively short space of time, were able to acquire more customers, hit 7 figures, ARR, and so on. So I want to talk a little bit about the first half of that story first. Tell me about when you met Tom, what stage was the product at? And, how did you guys go about getting those first 5 or 10 customers?
The product was basically, even right after YC was when we when we actually like started going after this. The way that we realized that we wanted to go after a specific product was we just interviewed customers, right? We would just like would go and talk to tons and tons and tons of people. Why I think YC gives you this advice, but this is kind of common startup advice is if you have an idea, just don't build the hackiest solution you can, right? Like whatever you can do in a day, a few days. Back then, this was before Claude Code and the advent of tools like that. So we basically would we would drum up ideas. We would cold outbound people on LinkedIn. We'd say, hey, we have an idea. Can we please talk to you about it? And we tried a bunch of different things. We finally got one person to agree to pay us. It was like, I think a few $100s a month. And then we were like, okay, cool. So we have somebody that is actually committed to paying us. They need some help figuring out how to keep their customers around and develop personas and stuff. Let's actually build this out. And we spent, my co-founder, actually, he's the technical genius, spent a few days building a handful of things out on top of a Jupyter notebook that I had. And the issues with that product were very much that we were doing too much consulting, right? Like every business is set up a little bit differently. You really can't like give a company sort of like perfect reasons to churn. It is also just like by the fact that it is sort of like an analytics tool. They'll ask a question, you answer it, and then they come back to you with another question. There isn't really like a product there, right? Like you can give them a dashboard, but once they see the dashboard and they see, oh, okay, like 25% of my customers churn because they buy X product, that's kind of like most of the job that you've done. And the product doesn't really have a ton of stickiness. Like dashboards, for anyone who's like worked in data analytics and BI, doesn't have a ton of stickiness. So we ran into a ton of problems. One, it was very consulting heavy. The product didn't really like do very much. And then like it was just like, just as all data analytics products are, not very sticky. The sort of like ongoing use for it wasn't super high. And we couldn't like quite figure out the pricing. So we moved away from that. We did that sort of consulting stuff for about 18 months. It didn't really work. And then we just by happenstance met Rebecca Blunt at Cotera. And she wanted something a little bit different, and that kind of led into what we do now.
Tell me about the outbound on LinkedIn and getting people to talk to you. How successful was that? What kind of response rates were you getting? A lot of founders I talk to, they're just like, no one's replying. How do I go and, I know I should go and talk to people, but no one wants to talk to me. So was there something you learned from that experience about what to do or what not to do?
Yeah. So, okay. I actually have a lot of opinions on this. I have a ton of opinions on this, and I've actually seen the world kind of change here. Back when we started, and this was only like really 2.5 years ago. It's not like I guess 3 years ago at this point. It wasn't super long ago, but LinkedIn was not sort of like taken over by bots. Email was not sort of like, you could definitely do mail merge emails and like do that, but it wasn't as crazy of a channel. Cold outbound on phone was also not that crazy because like not that many people were doing outbound calls, at least compared to the number of pings I get on my phone now. So I will give that asterisk. I think the bar has been raised. I still think that you can outbound people on LinkedIn. And what I'll do is I'll talk about what worked then and what works for us now, because we still use this as a channel. What worked then was just like appealing to their sense of like wanting to be a part of something bigger, right? Like we actually like, we didn't outbound them and say, hey, like, here's what we do, here's what we sell. Because at that point, we didn't really actually have anything that we could sell them. We basically just were like, hey, we are two guys. We founded a company. We dropped the YC name. We dropped the name of some of the other people that we'd worked with. Like I was the first data scientist at Peloton. So I like put that in there because Peloton was very popular back then. And so I just like say, hey, like, here's a short blurb, 2 sentences max. And then we're like, hey, we need some help. We want to like interview people. From time to time, if they were like important enough, we would offer them like coffee. Like, hey, like we'll send you a Starbucks gift card if you want to chat with us. Almost nobody took us up on that offer, but it did like increase our open rates quite a bit. I will say I don't remember what our exact response rates were, but they were in sort of like the high single digits. So you can basically estimate like close to 10%. So for every like 10 we sent out, we would get like one return. And when you think about it, like if you've got 150 LinkedIn requests that you can make across both founders and you're getting about an 8 to 10 response rate, you that's basically 25 meetings booked a week. So you can do about 5 meetings a day. And that is like a lot of sort of data gathering that you can do at any time. Now, that does not work anymore. I can't like, I am sure that I can tell people that we have a fun idea, but we actually do sell a product now. AI agents are actually like a very, very difficult thing to outbound people with because almost everyone is trying to sell this today. The thing that we have found works is building an AI agent. Because the thing is, the beauty of it is you can actually build products very, very quickly, and our product is super valuable. So we let the product do the work for us. I'll give you an example. If I am trying to outbound a person in sales and I'm trying to sell them a sales agent, one of the things that I can sell them is something that, monitors Reddit for sales opportunities. And I can email them and say, hey, I have built a bot. I have a product. One of the things that you can build on it is this thing that monitors Reddit for sales opportunities and people talking about your product or talking about your pain point. And I can tell them that I've built that. Or I can just send them leads, right? I'm like, hey, like I built a product. Here are like 5 Reddit threads from the last week where people are talking about something that you can help with. Are you interested in like taking a call? And that people go crazy for. Like people love that kind of stuff. If you actually like show value, like it all comes down to showing value, right? Before, like when the barrier was a little bit lower, you could show value by dropping a name or by like saying YC or by explaining something. But now like the market is super, super saturated and people are getting inbound all the time. You have to show them something that's truly different. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to actually send them value. That is the only way I think that people are going to buy products. And by having the product do the work for you, it's very, very simple. So that's what we do. We use our product for our own outbound. And we also use it to test out a bunch of different ideas on what AI agents people are going to like. Because people buy AI. We've started to see that people are not generalist buying it. They start off with like, hey, I'm trying to solve this problem. AI would be a good solution for this. And then they just start to ask more and more questions and build more and more stuff.
Unfortunately, most people are too lazy to put that kind of work into doing outbound.
Yeah, I get a ton of really, really bad messages, right? Like I think the most interesting one here is recruiters. Like they'll see that we have like a job posting on LinkedIn or on the YC page, and they'll be like, hey, like I send you here, like talk to me and pay me like 20% and I'll send you like leads. You can give me like 3 or 4 profiles without the name that you think fit. Because if you've done the job, you can actually have AI do that job, right? You can have an AI pull my job description that I have on LinkedIn. You can have it look at all the resumes of all the people that you have. You can remove all of their PII, and then you can send me an email saying, hey, here are 3 people that I think would be good fits for this job. You've done my job for me at that point. Then I have to basically just click to unlock, right? Nobody does that. And I'm like so confused. I'm like, why are you like telling me that you can help me hire? Just like help me hire. I'll pay you if you find me someone that I haven't been able to find before. Like if your network is truly as good as you think it is, then have the network do the talking for you. Sometimes people just have a bad product. Like there are also a lot of scam artists out there. I'm curious. I've been monologuing and I hate monologuing. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. I think that there's actually just a lot of people that are running scams or they're trying to take shortcuts and they don't like actually like want to build something great. I don't know. I don't love taking a short-termist approach, but I think a lot of people do that too.
Yeah. Well, I think I see that a lot with, there are people who are really just don't want to put using AI is now a way to do less work and put in less effort and less thought into reaching a lot more people at scale. And that's never really going to work, right? It's like, hey, I was sending out, doing outbound and reaching out to 100 people a week or 1,000 people a week and was getting a crappy response rate. And now I'm going to do the same thing with AI and reach 100,000 people a week and everything is going to start working magically, right? And I get the same thing with pitches for the podcast. where it's this predictable format. Hey, I just listened to episode whatever. It made me think about what, and it made me think about this person. And first of all, it's like that format immediately tells me they didn't actually do any of that. And then, but okay, it's like, all right, so some relevance. Half the time, they're like recommending somebody who wouldn't even be, it wouldn't make any sense to be on this particular podcast. Like that's where you lose me, right? It's like you could have just said, never heard of your podcast before, don't listen to it. But I came across it, and I know somebody who would be a good guest because here's why they're relevant, right? Just based on the type of people you're interviewing. That would be a lot more valuable.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like I same thing, right? Like we have a podcast, and yours is just way more successful than ours is. And so it sounds like you have your pick of the litter, right? You get pitches and you take people that come on. But if you were just starting today, you could probably outbound people. And yeah, you have two approaches, right? You could outbound either every single person on Apollo's database that seems to have started a company in 3 years, or you can actually use AI to put more thought into it, right? You can say, okay, look at all of these profiles one by one. Tell me if they've raised a seed round, at least. Tell me if their website still has like a real, like, because half of the websites are dead, right? Like 90% of startups fail. Like just make sure that their website is still alive, and maybe and check their LinkedIn to see if they've posted anything. And that will cut your list down by probably 80%. And of the rest of the 20%, you can lead score it. You can have the AI do lead scoring with you. And then what you can do is you can actually reach out to the top 1% super manually and put some care and thought into it. And you not only have successful guests that are going to, be a good group to do a show, be a good person to do the show with, but you'll also then, have cultivated real value for your listeners, right? You start off, and then the second part is they'll share it with their network because you've done this scoring and you've sort of like checked to see. There's just multiple ways of doing things, and I just think that people are lazy and do things very, very thoughtlessly.
I mean, when I started over 10 years ago, didn't have even one episode out there, and what I decided was I was just gonna who are the cool people I wanted to go and interview, and I personally wrote every email explaining why I thought they would be a good guest. And even now, I look back and I mean, out of my first 10 episodes, like Wade from Zapier, Melanie from Canva. I mean, obviously they weren't as big back then, but I'm sure they had better things to do than come on a podcast that had 0 episodes, right? But it's about making an effort. It's about trying to build relationships. But anyway, let's go back to Cotera. So you're on this path of building this customer analytics platform. You start to get some sales. I think eventually you guys got to like over 100K or so in ARR.
Yeah, we got just around 150, 170K of ARR, which is like, it's exciting when you haven't ever done anything before, when you're like an engineer somewhere. Obviously, like it's pithy compared to real businesses, but it is really exciting to get that first bit, and you can blow yourself into that false sense of security where you're like, oh, like this is working now. And that is honestly kind of what I did. Like both my co-founder is actually much better at this, where I was so excited about like some early success that I didn't see. I neglected to see, hey, like this is not really a software business. It seems to be like a services business. People aren't actually logging into the product. The value that they get is from talking to me and my team. And the thing that we had started to become was like an agency. And at some point we actually pared back our business a little bit, where we like fired some customers. I am putting the cart before the horse here. The real thing that happened was we actually had somebody that came in and they asked us to build something hyper specific, and, eager to please an early stage founder, I tried doing it. It didn't really work. And that was right around the time that OpenAI's API had come out. And my co-founder messaged me and goes, hey, like what this customer wanted, by the way, was like something to extract topics from customer support tickets. And my co-founder was like, hey, like this would actually be a really good fit for this like random OpenAI ChatGPT API that's come out. how about I try doing it? And I had written like a data science script that was like, multiple gigabytes of like infrastructure, and it was really slow and it sucked. And my co-founder wrote like maybe 100 lines of API code and was able to solve the problem. And that was when it clicked with us. We were like, oh man, this is a massive opportunity. We are probably the first people to try doing this very specific thing. Let's go after this market. And we closed a handful. We started to close people that way. And then our current product is basically just like an edit of that initial product.
I mean, the problem is in those early days, it would almost be easier if you had no sales, because then you have to do something different. But once you have some customers, some money, you're like, it's kind of working. We should keep doing more of this.
It's so difficult because everyone, when you start a business, this is the thing that they don't tell you, is everyone either says that you're going to die, like you will like blow all your money and die, or you're going to be like a standout success. But like most businesses kind of like waver in this, like, well, not most businesses, most of the ones that don't die at least are like, they're very, very wavering. And that is like a very, very tough place to be in, right? Because like you have customers, you have revenue, you have employees. It is incredibly difficult at that point to either like pare back and fire customers and go back to your investors and say, hey, by the way, like we're not doing this anymore, even though you're quote unquote succeeding at closing deals. Yeah, but what you've done is you've basically found a local maxima, and you don't want to, you want to find a global maxima.
So you guys have this wake up moment with the OpenAI API. Tell me about like the thought process that went into the pivot. Was it like literally like, oh my God, this is what we should be doing tomorrow, let's kind of become this AI agent product? Or did it take a little longer than that?
No, it took a while. It took about a year and change. We started basically like what was happening is we then became like an AI company, right? It was like this new wave of like ChatGPT come out. People were like starting to look at AI. They were starting to be like, what can this thing do? And what would happen is like we would get into a business, and then that team would then be like, oh, like we're working with this AI company. And then they would introduce us to other people on the team that would then say, other people at the company that worked in different departments, and they would be like, hey, we hear you're the AI guys. Can I do this with your AI? And it's always like, can I do this with your AI? Where like, we would enter through like a customer support team or like a sales team or something, and they would introduce us to marketing. And like the thing that we were doing for customer support was like extracting text. And they would be like, hey, can you like generate case studies from like calls? Or can you like monitor the internet? And those are actually like quite different use cases, but we were the quote AI guys. So we obviously, you explore some ideas you say yes to, some ideas you say no to. But enough people had started doing this with us where we were like, oh, like what they want is fundamentally workflows, right? Like we were making an LLM call on top of infrastructure. We need to give the LLM access to tools. We need to basically like, we actually don't like MCP servers at Cotera because they're incredibly horribly built. And so we had to build some of these integrations. To start, it was back into like the customer ticketing tools and the customer support tools to dump the data back in. But then we started just giving them the ability to do action. And the first time, it's like a drug, man. Like the first time you hook up your LLM to like your Gmail account that gets like 50 spam messages an hour, and you basically just tell the AI, every 5 minutes, I want you to look at the emails I got in the last 5 minutes and send me a Slack message with the ones that like don't suck. Fixer has basically turned this into a $50 million product, or $50 million of ARR in the span of like 2 months or something like that. The thing that they've done is they've taken an incredibly simple primitive that is a very easy product to build, and they've just made it into, because it's a problem that real people have. But the second you find that your AI can do this, like the LLM system infrastructure that we've built up could do this, we were like, oh my God, this is crazy. And that was when we basically, we changed a lot of things. We stopped being like a sales-led organization. We decided we wanted to be product-led. We wanted to build the best product in the world. We didn't want to do services anymore. That was when we were like, oh, this is actually like a real thing that we should build because we have this advantage for now. And that's what we're currently in the middle of doing.
Okay, so you figured out what the pivot is just based on talking to people. You see the pattern and some of these, and obviously you can't go down every one of these rabbit holes and build everything for marketing and customer support and everything. Where did how did you figure out like how to stop becoming the AI guys and becoming something that made more sense and didn't send you all around the organization?
Well, one, we actually decided that we wanted to be spent around the organization. A lot of people, and I still get this advice to this day, and maybe this is the reason, this is the thing that will kill us, is like we are building a product that is not vertical specific. It is for a very specific part of the horizontal market. It is for businesses that are Series A, above Series, slightly above Series A. They've like hit sort of like problems of scale, right? And they have people on the team that are wanting to use AI. That is like our subset, but it is very, very different from like we sell a outbound product to sales teams, right? Like we are a product for tinkerers. And so I will say like we are still sent around the organization. And honestly, like I will say we are still somewhat the AI guys. It is just now that our product can do the things that we had to kind of do manually, right? Like instead of setting up a Jupyter notebook to try to test an idea and put it into production in a really horrible way for people, we now have a product where somebody can come to us. The other day, like I won't name names, but a massive retailer came to us and was like, "Hey, I think people are stealing from our stores and putting the product on Poshmark. Can your AI go and like look at Poshmark?" And the thing that we did was we actually were like, "Yes, but we are not going to build this for you. We are going to show your team how easy it is to build this thing in our product." And then we just did a session with their sort of like their operations team on how to build AI agents, and we built it together. And then what happened was all their operations people were like, "Oh my God, this is so easy. Let me try building other stuff." And that was we actually are still the AI guys. We just now teach instead of do things for people.
Yeah. But I guess the trouble with just being the AI guys is it's like it's so broad that you get asked about all kinds of things that don't make sense to what you're doing. And then also like calling yourself an AI agent or agent builder, it's like you and I were talking about this earlier. It's kind of like the wild, wild west out there. That everyone seems to be doing some kind of AI agent thing. And I think it would be a lot easier if people could understand which one is right for me. Where does this thing fit in? How is this different or better than what else is out there? So how have you approached that?
Yeah. And admittedly, like I think we'd have more revenue if we had actually cracked this. Our take, and you know what? Maybe I should post a comment in 4 months to see if this actually worked. I think it is just about providing value, right? You need to just provide value to people. I think that the biggest complaints we get from customers, one of the biggest things we've been doing recently is like companies like Qualtrics are selling quote unquote like AI packages on top of their products for like $250,000 a pop. And they're just bad. Like they're terrible products. What they're basically doing is they're slapping like a ChatGPT like webhook on top of their existing like data infrastructure. And they're like, "We have AI now, pay us $250,000 to like give 500 licenses to your employees." And it's just like a bad product. And so that's something that we constantly fight, right? Like what happens my most common story is like a sales leader or someone will book time on my calendar and they'll be like, "Hey, I have this problem." And we will show them the product. And then they'll say, "Oh, like, I'm just going to wait for like Gong to build this." And then what's started to happen now is that they're using like Gong's version of the AI and it costs like $1 gajillion and it's bad and it's not customizable. And so then they come back to us and they're like, "Oh, cool. Like, can your product do this?" The way that we're trying to do this is we're just trying to show how easy it is to build these products. Like if you look at my social media accounts, most of the conversations that I'm having on there are about how easy it is to I spent 5 minutes building an AI this morning. The LinkedIn thing I did this morning was my investor messaged me and he goes, "Hey, like what are the biggest questions that people are asking on Reddit about AI?" And what I did was I used our Reddit bot on my phone to go go scrape Reddit, and then like there's an AI agent that we've built that goes and scrapes Reddit and then actually dumps into Gamma, which is like a deck maker. And I just showed those.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's super helpful. It goes back to kind of the example of like you were saying, like just sending people leads. It's much more helpful to actually see an example. People can connect the dots as opposed to here's my elevator pitch, here's my blah 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 AI agent. It doesn't make sense to anybody. Maybe over, I think we're still going through this period where, we're waiting for the dust to settle and things to start to make more sense. One of the things was interesting was you said, hey, we're agentic, and that's always an interesting term, right? And the way you sort of told me about it was like, look, we're kind of like totally prompt based. We don't do this workflow and drag and drop like Zapier. People just type in what they want and get that set up. And immediately I thought about, well, Zapier has something like that. And it's not very good because every time I've tried to use it, I type in the prompt, it generates something and I can see the workflow. And half the time it doesn't work. And another kind of example was where, using Claude Code and using it inside Cursor or Windsurf or whatever your favorite IDE is. That was kind of pretty cool, right? So you got your code, you got this window, you can start to do interesting stuff. And then when Anthropic released Claude Code for the web, I was like, no, thanks. Like my head for a while couldn't get around, how do you do this when you can't see the code? You just have a prompt to do this all, right? And now that I've been using it for a while, it's actually pretty cool. And it starts to make sense. So I'm just curious, like, why did you take that route? And, what was the reaction? Like, did it make it easier to sell the product?
Yeah, so I will say, I think the only real reason we have this advantage is not due to any, like, intelligence. It's literally just because, like, Zapier, and N8N, what they have to do is they have all of this infrastructure that they've already set up, right? Like they have two solutions when it comes to implementing AI. And Clay is actually this exact same thing. Is their AI can either be an AI that has tool calls to set up a workflow in Zapier, which is something that they do well and something that their customers expect from them, or they can take a risk and go the other direction. And because we're newer, we took a risk and went the other direction, right? Because like the way the Claude Code works, you explain this incredibly well. The reason that Claude Code works so well and is such a beautiful product to use is that it is, at its very core, a system prompt, but it has access to tools that are very, very good at reading code and searching for code and understanding code structures and accessing documents that a person is hopefully set up that explain the way the code looks. And you can watch it, right? Like it'll have a prompt, it'll chuck some stuff into context, it'll use its like tool to go and grab something or search for something or read something. It'll make a couple requests, and it has these like it has these tool primitives that the AI can actually access. The only thing that Cotera has done is made it so you can take your system prompt and attach tools for the rest of the parts of your life, right? A tool that can access Gmail, a tool that can access Google Docs, a tool that can access Reddit, a tool that can go read someone's like LinkedIn posts. We just have all of these tools, and we just give people the ability to hook them up to a system prompt. And then the benefit of it is that you can attach it to a Snowflake or a Redshift or a BigQuery to be able to run them at scale. And just because of the fact that we're newer, we were able to go that route. And I think that every company from here on forward that is going to be launching one of these tools, it's not entirely true because OpenAI released Agent Kit, which is, in my opinion, a lazy, horrible product that is also just a slapped on like agent builder. Watch, like I put this out the day this episode drops, the day 2, they're going to announce Agent Builder 2, which is just going to like put us out of business. But like whatever.
Yeah, right.
That's fundamentally the only reason we had that advantage. It's not any sort of like intelligence. It was just that this is a path that we were kind of forced to go down from our customers, and they kept asking us, and this is just the way that made sense to have our AI like integrate with external products.
So tell me how different the traction was. A lot of the times I've spoken to founders who say, when we got traction or started to get traction, it was different. You could tell. Before we were kind of getting customers, but it was like, we weren't there. But when things started to click, it just feels different. And so for you guys, first couple of years, you're building this customer analytics product. You get to 6 figures in ARR. And then you did this pivot. And in a relatively short space of time, you hit the first $1 million in ARR. So just tell me about that. Like, what was different before and after with this pivot?
It was just easier to close deals. Like we were closing, like it was just like much easier. Like the product started to talk for itself, and it was just easier to start selling it. More people were interested for more reasons. And they just got visibly excited because they could see it working. Like I could jump onto a sales call and they could explain their problem to me, and I could in the span of 3 minutes write not the best, but an agent that did the thing that they were asking for, and that was like, oh wow, this is very cool. And then they buy. We also figured out pricing a little bit. Like we didn't try to sell an enterprise deal. We gave people like more reasons to jump in. It was yeah.
Let's talk about pricing, because I think today when I looked at your pricing page, you have a $20 a month plan, and then the next tier up is like $500 a month, which tells me you're not really going after the core Zapier or N8N sort of crowd who would go from $20 to $50 to $100 a month. It's almost like that $20 is there just to let people try it enough. And the ones who would happily pay $500 a month can then upgrade and sort of move to the next tier. And you don't have a free plan. And you told me earlier, like, hey, free was probably a mistake. So just talk about like there's a journey you've gone through with that.
You get a 7-day free trial when you sign up for the 20. You actually get a 7-day free trial, I think, when you sign up for any plan. We're meant for teams and we're meant for workflows. Like the $20 a month plan is basically just gives you the credits that you need to be able to chat with a bot. And it's actually quite a nice product when you think about it, because for $20 a month, you get access to Anthropic's models, you get access to ChatGPT's models, all of them, right? Because you can just select in our product which model you want to use. And then you can get it to access your tools. So if you just want a chatbot to talk to you that connects to Gmail and like can Slack you every few hours, that's something that's really, really easy to set up in our product for $20 a month. And you can just get rid of your ChatGPT subscription if you want, because what we're using underneath the hood is still ChatGPT. But you have the benefit of like being able to use Claude for like, it's better at coding and writing and a few other things. It's less sycophantic. So it's better for those things. And yeah, that's exactly right. Like you can come in and for $20 a month, you can mess with it. And then for $500 a month, right? Like you just need enough credits to be able to run this on top of a data warehouse. So you need to be able to run this very deep. For $20 a month, you can come in and you can do deep research from a chat perspective, but you want to do deep research on top of everyone that's coming to your site. And you probably have at least like a few dozen people coming to your site a day that you want to do deep research on. And like, you're just going to run out of credits really fast, right? Like it's just, you can do a lot of damage for $20, but if you want to do anything at scale, like it will cost you. So that's and again, like I will asterisk this with the fact that like, I'm sure that we will like put like an intermediary thing in there if we need to at some point. We're still early at this.
Yeah. So before we started recording, I asked you like, who do you see as your competitors? And your answer surprised me because I thought you were going to talk about other sort of AI agent builders. And you said, well, actually, we're looking at Zapier, N8N, and these types of guys, which is a huge market, hugely horizontal. Why is that your focus?
Those folks have been very, very successful. And foundationally, like, we're doing a lot of the same stuff that they are, but just it with a modern twist, right? Like N8N is still like a drag and drop workflow builder. Zapier is still a drag and drop workflow builder. We are the same thing. We are the same problem solution. We're a solution to the same problem, but it is just a much, much easier thing to set up. And it's like the agentic thing really does give you a lot of superpowers, right? Like a great example of something that you can do with our product that is very difficult to do with N8N is someone just there's a major restaurant chain that uses us to go and look at their Google reviews and their internal Zendesk reviews. And the only thing the AI's job is to send a PagerDuty notification if someone has said that they've gotten sick inside of a restaurant or like fallen down inside of a restaurant. And if you use like a keyword-based model, it's just going to either miss stuff or it's going to like ping constantly. It's very difficult to tune those things. Having an AI and just explaining to it, hey, like this is the only thing that you need to like warn me about, it is quite a lot like easier to set up and safer. And so like we are just a much better, in my opinion at least, way of solving the same problem. And we're focused specifically on enterprises, which is the data warehouse integration piece. A lot of businesses do not want to send their data to a third party and have it process it and then have it do everything. They want it to be sourced from their internal infrastructure, go to an LLM provider, and land back in their internal infrastructure.
It's interesting. When you told me about that, I was like, I'm not sure I ever thought about it that way. But when I look back and companies or CEOs that I've talked to who are kind of strategically looking at something like this, they're like, the conversation always seems to be about, we have this AI solution. How do we get all our data into there? As opposed to how can it just sit on top of the data that we already have? It seems pretty obvious, but is it really like that unique? Like you guys are doing that?
We haven't found anyone else that's doing the agents on top of the data. We have a lot of people that are, okay, and when I say agents on top of the data warehouse, it is not like an analytics tool. It's not like, hey, tell me how much user growth I had. It is, I have all of this data and I need to run it. I need to run like a lead generation model effectively, right? Like I have this list. I have a list in Mixpanel of everyone who's like signed up to my website. I need you to go down this list every 5 minutes. And for anyone who's new, I need you to like write me a debrief on their business using like Google article search, right? And like LinkedIn, and I need you to like enrich all these tools. Super easy to do that. It's always like stuff like that. Look, I don't want to say anything here that is particularly mean. I think that a lot of the businesses that we see today that are hyper specific use cases using AI are going to get to, millions of ARR very fast. And then I think they will die. I think the reason for it is it's incredibly easy to build those things today, right? Like the very vertical use cases, if you don't have knowledge or a moat that's specific to that industry, it's actually quite easy to like use AI to build those things. And so we think that in the next few years that just giving people access to tools where they can explain what they want to do is going to be like a very easy, a much just better way of approaching the same problem. Obviously, those companies will win out in the short term, but they're also the easiest problems to go after, and they make the most sense to investors, which is why they get funded out the wazoo. But we are trying to build an easy way for people to solve hard problems. And again, we might fail. Like, it might not work. We think it's working, and it seems to be working well, but that is the thing that we've spent the last 2 years building, is basically making it easy for these AI agents to sit on top of native infrastructure.
It reminded me of a conversation I had with David Shim, the founder of Read AI. And he shared a similar story where I think it was the OpenAI API. And suddenly his team built a solution in like over a weekend. And he was the one who was like, wait a minute, if we can build this over a weekend, that means everyone else can do the same thing. So that doesn't sound like a particularly smart way to go forward here. Like, we got to figure out how we're going to do this differently, better, whatever, right? So, and I think we're going through that right now, where it's like it's really easy to be a wrapper on ChatGPT or OpenAI, but when everyone's doing it, or everyone can do it easily, and Claude Code comes along and all of this stuff and keeps getting better and better, I think the bar is going to keep getting raised, and it's going to be harder and harder to stand out.
Yeah, and I agree with this. I think that one of the other things is that you need to be able to make these things work at scale, right? Like the lovable V0 sort of problem where they've sort of like they very quickly got to a lot of many millions of dollars of ARR, but then also their retention curve is terrible, is because like engineering is difficult, right? Like vibe coding an entire app is easier today than it was yesterday, but we still have a lot to figure out. And the challenge that we think that we solve pretty effectively is making all the things that you have to think about, like API rate, like all the boring stuff, right? Like when you're trying to like access information from Google 50 times at a second, you have to deal with rate limit issues, and you have to deal with token costs, and you have to deal with budgets, and you have to deal with sort of like networking errors. We try to make it really, really easy for people to they just never have to think about the boring stuff, right? They explain their problem, they connect their tools, and they save time, and they launch it at scale.
Cool. All right. We should wrap up. Let's get on to the lightning round. I've got 7 quick fire questions for you.
Let's do it.
Okay. What's one of the best pieces of business advice you've received?
Never give anyone anything for free. Always make sure that you get something for what you're giving. Your time is incredibly valuable.
What book would you recommend to our audience, and why?
How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia. It's a kind of weird book that's written in second person. And it's not what you think it's about. It makes you think about why you're doing the thing that you're doing. And maybe not in a good way. Maybe not in a way that's like fuzzy and happy. What's
one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
The ability to focus. Focus is very, very difficult. It's something that I find trouble with myself. I think somebody who can focus well and only focus on the things that actually matter are people that tend to, in my opinion, do pretty well.
What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
I mean, I'm supposed to say us, but in reality, it's definitely Claude Code. Like Claude Code is, I think, the tool that has like actually genuinely like impacted the way that my team works and how I work, is because I've actually got it sitting in the corner right now trying to build like an integration for me. We just have a part of our code base that's like very, very well spec'd out. And I just run constant experiments with it all day. I'd say only like 20% of what I build actually gets shipped. But as somebody who used to be an engineer and is now no longer really an engineer in terms of my job, it has gotten me back to engineering and actually building impactful things in an easy way.
What's a new or crazy business idea you'd love to pursue if you had the time?
The one that I find the most interesting is it would be really, really interesting to build something that is hardware related. I think hardware is going to be like a pretty unique point in the next few years. Like I think software might become commoditized and hardware might not. And I think making it easy for these agents to be able to interact with a physical product, right? Like just creating a hardware device that has a very, very easy software interface for AI agents to be able to talk to, so you can modularly build robots, is interesting. I say that with absolutely no knowledge outside of like the Lego robotics that I played with as a kid, but that is genuinely something that is very, very interesting to me.
What's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
I'm from Nebraska. People always like find that super strange. They're like, wait, you're from Nebraska? Like, for people who are listening to this podcast and not watching it, like I'm a brown skinned person. My parents are Pakistani immigrants, and the biggest question I get is like, how the hell did your parents move to Nebraska? It's a fun story for a different time.
All right. And finally, what's one of your most important passions outside of your work?
I live in New York City. It's my friends. Like I love my friends more than anything else in the world. My friends and my wife. I think that like as I grow older, the opportunity cost does not become money, it becomes time. Like the thing that I'm most afraid to lose is I'm in my late 20s. I live in what I think is the best city in the world, surrounded by the best people in the world. And the opportunity cost of doing this founder job is that I don't get to spend nearly as much time with the people that I love. And that is actually like a really, really very, very real cost. I don't want to be a billionaire who's alone.
Love it. Okay, great. So if people want to find out more about Cotera, they can go to cotera.co. That's Cotera.co. And if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You know what? There's a direct line. Text me. If you want to talk about AI agents and you want to ideate on building AI agents, my cell number is 402-468-8492. If you've gotten to this point and you haven't turned off the podcast and you want to talk about AI agents, shoot me a text. That's my number.
It's like, I don't know whether I'm just lucky and I have a great audience, but I've never had anybody come on the show and then say, I got spammed by these annoying people or whatever. But they have come back and said, I had some really interesting conversations with people who were listening and followed up. And so, thank you for being great listeners.
Open your phone. You're probably listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Pop open the phone, send me a text message. I promise I'll respond.
Sweet. Well, thanks, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for unpacking your story and sort of the journey you guys have gone on since YC, doing the pivot, and then what you're doing today with building the business. And I wish you and the team the best of success.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Cheers.